saw President Trump right there. I have Andrew Kraft joined with me right now. Andrew, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks everyone for watching. We're going to break down the top political stories of the day. There's always so much. And Daytona, can you believe it? December 3rd, it's been 1 month since the election.
1 month. I honestly cannot believe it. Every single month feels like a couple years, and now 2020 is coming to a head. We're almost heading into 2021. Maybe a light at the end of the tunnel with everything that has happened this year.
Yes, that's right. And just to go into the top story we have for you, the Trump campaign and the RNC, they have a joint fundraising operation, and they announced these staggering fundraising dollar totals since Election Day. They said they've raised $207.5 million since November 3rd. They said that number since before the election, October 15th, was somewhere in the vicinity of $400 million. And Daytona, kind of giving our viewers a sense of what this money is going to be used for. Remember, this was, geared in a flurry of fundraising messages and emails to people who support the president, saying that, they wanted this money to be used for any legal defenses that they needed to mount with all of these lawsuits going around in all of these states. But kind of when you read the fine print as well, a lot of this money will also go towards a PAC that will eventually possibly, the president can essentially do whatever he wants with this money. It can go to a super PAC if he wants to run in 2024. So it remains to be seen how much is going toward that and how much is really going toward the election and the legal defense fund with all of these lawsuits. But it's a staggering number. Remember, he's not in campaign mode at the moment, but this is a large dollar amount.
Yeah, honestly, really, really interesting to see. And again, yet another situation where we're just looking at timing of this, of course, with the election kind of coming to a head, but, it's still ongoing right now, which brings us into our next topic right now. Let's talk about the White House. We'll stay on the White House with Communications Director Alyssa Farah today, taking a resignation letter and putting it on the desk, saying she's out.
Yeah, that's right. And this is kind of the writing on the wall, if you will, for a lot of these White House staffers. They're trying to, game out their next moves after a Trump White House. There you're seeing just some file video we have of the White House Communications Director, former White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah, resigning her post today in the White House press shop, presumably, looking for the next move in her career. Remember, there's only a few remaining weeks left of the Trump administration, so it'll be interesting to see if a lot of people, a lot of staffers, senior advisors and the like, follow Farah's lead and also resign because, they're going to need new jobs after this administration is over. Now, Farah was also the lead press person for Vice President Mike Pence, and she was also the press secretary at the Department of Defense before taking the lead comms role in the White House press office as White House Communications Director. Daytona?
Yes, definitely an interesting situation right there. We're going to talk a little bit about other people who might be losing their jobs despite wanting to actually resign, but we'll step away from that for just a moment right here because let's talk about Heidi Stirrup, okay? She is the... I'm sorry, we're having a little trouble on the technical side here, but the official serving as President Trump's eyes and ears at the Justice Department has been banned from the building after trying to pressure staffers to give up sensitive information. Andrew, this is interesting coming after these election fraud allegations. Heidi Stirrup is kind of getting in the middle of it. Can you explain what's going on?
Yeah, so this was a pretty stunning story broken by the Associated Press today, and in it, it essentially says, a couple months back, the White House issued these liaisons to go work in these government agencies like the Department of Justice and essentially kind of be the go-between between the White House and these federal agencies. Well, it just so happens that we're getting this report from the Associated Press that White House liaison that you mentioned, Heidi Stirrup is her name, has been serving as a liaison to the Justice Department. And apparently, according to the article, I'm going to read that here, the official, Heidi Stirrup, has been banned from the building, from the Justice Department, after trying to pressure staffers to give up sensitive information about election fraud and other matters. It goes on to say that she, in the last 2 weeks, was ordered to vacate the building after top Justice Department officials essentially caught wind of what she was doing. She was trying to essentially, intervene, interfere in some of these possible, investigations into voter fraud that the Justice Department was undertaking at the time. And the article goes on to say that she wanted to bring evidence of that back to the White House. So pretty stunning, Daytona, if you think about it. And remember, we just heard from Attorney General Bill Barr earlier this week in another interview with the Associated Press, saying that of the investigations that they had going on at the Justice Department, none indicated evidence of massive voter fraud to overturn the results of the election as they stand right now. So all these stories really kind of dovetailing and following their way back to the White House. We heard from President Trump there with Lou Holtz in the Oval Office. He was granting him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor we award citizens in this country. And reporters in the room after that event was over, they asked President Trump, do you still have confidence in your Attorney General, in Bill Barr? And he essentially kind of hedged and said, ask me that in a couple of weeks. Well, Daytona, there aren't that many weeks left to the Trump administration. And a lot of people, especially people who work in the White House, that's according to sources from Fox, don't know whether or not he will keep around Attorney General Bill Barr. So it remains to be seen, but a lot of people are worried that he will fire him before he leaves office.
Yeah, well, amid obviously these pending lawsuits that are still going on, we saw a state lawsuit in Wisconsin earlier today. There was a hearing that was underway, and then also Georgia still is in the middle of this recount as well, with a deadline looming on Friday for recertification. So in his eyes, this is still a fair game and the election is still going. So
that's right.
It'll be interesting to be following that. Let's head over to President-elect Joe Biden. We haven't really heard from him much today, and we haven't had the opportunity to do a live report. Typically, we do here on NewsNOW from Fox, talking to some of the reporters who are following him and his campaign. So what has Biden been up to today, Andrew?
So we know today that he announced some new picks, and these picks are especially going to lead the coronavirus response once Biden assumes the role of presidency in office. So we're learning that he's tapped two close allies that used to work in the Obama administration. Their names are Jeff Zients. He'll serve as the White House's COVID-19 coordinator, and Vivek Murthy, who was the former U.S. Surgeon General, and he will serve again in that role as U.S. Surgeon General. We're also finding out from a CNN interview that Biden did. It was his first interview post-election with Senator Harris, his vice president, on CNN, and there he confirmed that Dr. Anthony Fauci will play a very large role as well in the coronavirus response going into this new administration. Biden terming him the chief medical advisor for the pandemic. Of course, Fauci will remain at the National Institutes of Health as well. So we finally know the Biden team has reached out to Fauci and vice versa, and Fauci will be an integral part of that going into the new administration. Daytona. And
in that same interview today, he was talking about this mask mandate, which is something that we've been hearing from a lot of states and a lot of people who oppose Biden and his team. Hey, is there going to be a mask mandate that's put into place? Well, he's saying for the next after Inauguration Day, including Inauguration Day, 100 days of wearing masks. Can you believe that?
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting too, Daytona. Remember, new presidents, they always set a pretty ambitious agenda for their first 100 days in office, trying to, tick off all these bucket list items that they have and that they want to get done in their first 100 days. Biden's saying that he wants Americans, you and me and everyone else, to commit to wearing a mask for the first 100 days of his administration. Obviously, people around the country have been wearing masks, since the pandemic began and in its early days, once we found out that that was some type of preventative for the coronavirus, for others and for ourselves. So he's kind of, doubling down and imploring Americans to, remain and keep with it and wear those masks even well into the new year in 2021, Daytona.
Yeah, the question with that will remain, how do you mandate that? Because, we're even seeing out of California, too, with more and more restrictions. Californians are saying, okay, these restrictions are on the table, but who's enforcing it, and
right.
Honestly, officials don't really have an answer to that quite yet, so that'll probably be the next steps after that is initiated by President-elect Biden and his team. But let's talk about some of these former presidents and what they're vowing today. I'm going to pull up a little bit of this video that we have.
Yeah, Daytona, so just wanted to go over this. This is pretty interesting, but all former living U.S. presidents have so far committed to taking the vaccine and doing so publicly, showing the country that it's safe, that they're willing to do it, kind of acting as these very high-profile, prolific, vaccine takers to show the rest of the country an example of, they're not afraid to take it, they're going to take it. So we found out that former President Obama, former President Bill Clinton, former President George W. Bush have committed to doing this and possibly even live in front of a large audience for the rest of the country to see. We also know that according to representatives from former President Jimmy Carter and his wife Rosalynn, the former First Lady, that they issued a statement today as well in conjunction with this news, saying that they're committed to taking the vaccine as well, to show it's safe, to show that if they can do it, so can you. So that's pretty stunning as well. Remember, Jimmy Carter and his wife are in their late 90s. They're in probably the highest susceptible age bracket to contract the coronavirus. And there in this statement from the Carter Center on Twitter, you're seeing on your screen right now, it says essentially they're in full support of vaccine efforts and encourage everyone who is eligible to get immunized as soon as it becomes available in their communities. So you're hearing a huge push from former presidents, all former living presidents, for Americans to trust the vaccine and trust that it's safe. Daytona? Yeah,
Andrew, this is an interesting coming forth of all of these presidents, because we've seen this from other officials in the past too. Just in the past couple of months, Governor Gavin Newsom got a flu shot on camera, so they're saying people who are against this vaccine are saying, well, you know what, why don't all the politicians get it first and then we'll take it? So I guess they are taking a step forward and saying, you know what, we will. So that'll definitely be interesting to see, and timing on that, when that will happen, is interesting, because the CDC is finally coming out saying, hey, this is who's going to get it first, and this is how it's going to be distributed. Every state a little bit different. I wonder if the presidents will be before or after all of these health officials, which they're saying that health officials are going to get it first, and then nursing homes, people most at risk.
Yeah, that's right. It remains to be seen if there will be any commitments from the Trump White House, people in his cabinet, the president himself, if they'll commit themselves to taking it publicly as well. Remember, the First Lady and President Trump a few months ago had the virus, so they could still have that immune response with the antibodies. But we will be following that definitely here on NewsNOW from Fox. And in case there's any event, public live event that shows those former presidents, taking the vaccine, getting that administered, we'll definitely show that here on NewsNOW.
And just to wrap a bow on this segment, we're looking towards a COVID-19 update from Rhode Island. This is a special COVID-19 update, though, because there was some big questions that were asked. Andrew, I think that possibly the Biden administration was looking at some of those Rhode Island officials to take over in the White House. Can you explain what's going on out there?
Yeah, sure. So you remember Democratic governor of Rhode Island, Gina Raimondo, she was on the short list for a while to, of all the talk about who was going to be Biden's choice for vice president. Obviously, he chose Senator Kamala Harris, but Gina Raimondo was on that short list. So now there's been all this talk about these people, these women who were on the short list back in the summer on the VP, what we call Veep stakes. Who is it going to be? It'd be interesting to see now if they'll be vying for any top spots in Biden's cabinet. And so a reporter at this press briefing out of the state of Rhode Island with the governor asked her, are you considering or would you accept a cabinet post in the Biden administration? And I believe she was up for Health and Human Services Secretary at HHS. That's kind of what the rumor mill was talking about for Governor Raimondo herself. And then she kind of swatted down those rumors, saying no, she was not anticipating being picked for anything, and she's just going to remain governor of Rhode Island. So we're going to play that briefing out for you that happened earlier today out of the state of Rhode Island with Governor Raimondo. She doesn't really brief reporters very often on the state of the coronavirus in her state, so this will be about an hour, a little over an hour, and we'll show that to you right now. Daytona?
Yep, again, you're watching News Now from Fox. I'm Daytona Everett. That's Andrew Kraft. This is what we're calling our kind of political rundown every single day, giving you the day's top headlines because quite frankly, we're really focused on politics lately with the election kind of ending and then moving into 2021. We're far from over. And so we're going to bring it all to you live, raw and unfiltered here on News Now from Fox.